by the water.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Real quick catch up here. Rodney has gotten out of prison, right? And now Rodney was in prison. He was a dope boy. A stick-up kid. And he had robbed dope boys on the town, right? And then he ended up getting caught up in a case where he had to shoot somebody on a robbery. He ended up getting 12 years. Now, while he was in prison, he's collecting information on everybody that he was going to potentially rob when he got out, right? But when he got up to a year before he got out, his mom and them were going to come and see him. And don't get it twisted. They've been coming to see him twice a month. But they were getting ready to come and see him. But there was this dope boy that Rodney had robbed years ago on the streets that had gotten major now and come to the penitentiary. And he hired this gang to whoop Rodney so he can get his lick back. And they whooped him, and they whooped him really bad. So what Rodney did that particular weekend, he called home and he told his mom and his sister not to come visit him. So they went out, went shopping and all this. Then they ended up, unfortunately, being killed in a car accident, hit head on by a drunk driver driving the wrong way in a head-on collision. And Rodney is torn apart by that. And he swears to have his revenge against that dope boy and the gang that whooped him. And up to a year before he got out, he's collecting all this information about them. And he's got this whole map of where they live, what they do, who they associated with, their families, their kids, how much money they got. Apparently, people talk a lot about that in here. They brag about the money. Don't necessarily mean it's true. But he's got all of this, and he's going to get his revenge. And before he leaves, he goes to the dope boy, and he goes to the gang members, and he tells them, this ain't over. But they underestimate him because he's a stick-up kid. To them, he ain't nobody. He ain't nobody. You understand what I'm saying? Now, so here's the thing. He's out. And he's got the house that his mom and his sister had been living in. He paid it off with some of the lawsuit settlement money that he got as a result of that accident. So he doesn't have to rob anymore. He's got the money. But just because he doesn't have to rob anymore, that don't mean that the skills that he's developed in doing that are gone. That don't mean that mindset that he had is gone. Because keep in mind, he was going to do this again when he got out until he got this money. He had been playing the long game, getting information on every dope boy in there, to try to figure out who was going to be his victims, who was going to set him up for that big payday when he got out. So he still has the mind of a stick-up kid. He just got money now. He got money now that he got because his mother and his sister were killed in an accident tragically. And the shame of that, the guilt of that is eating him alive. And to soothe that guilt that he has, he believes that he has to get revenge on them, that he has to get his lick back. He thinks that's the only way he's going to feel comfortable. So what he does that first week that he's out, he pays a visit to the dope boy's parents' house. And he goes by there and he tells them, he knocks on the door, and the dope boy's mom comes to the door, and he tells her who he is, and then he says that he's a friend of the dope boy. And his mom, the dope boy's mom, tells him, yeah, he's not here, and he's still locked up, and he's got a little bit more time to go. So Rodney plays the role as if, oh, okay, then, will you just tell him I stopped by? Tell him I stopped by, and if he needs anything, to let me know. She said, I sure will, baby. I'll tell it. I'll let him know. And she says, now, what's your name again? And he tells her his name is Rodney, and all this, and they say that, that if he needs anything, to let him know. To let him know. So now he pays a visit to the dope boy's girlfriend, one of them. And she tells him, he tells her The exact same thing. The exact same thing. So then he goes home. Weeks pass by. He's calculating how to get to the gangs because you got to be careful with them. It's a different ball game when you confront them. So he leans back and he just plays while he's watching. He's trying to identify who's the head of the organization that whooped him. And once he does that, he watches and he sees his pattern, his routine, how he moves around. And he loves to go to the mall every weekend in the afternoon with his girlfriend. So Rodney makes sure it's his business to meet him at the mall. He likes to go to the Foot Locker. So Rodney's in the same Foot Locker one particular weekend that the head of the gang that whooped him is in. So he catches him in the Foot Locker and he's talking to him. He's telling him about he just got out and he was at the penitentiary and all this and that. And the gang leader, he tells you, yeah, I got a lot of brothers up there. He's like, oh, yeah? He said, what's their name? I might know him. And he tells him a name or two, right? And Rodney plays the role like he don't know him. You feel me? So the gang member, the gang leader said, what's your name? And he gives him a fake name. He said, oh, okay. He said, man, look, if you need anything, holler, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm always about the struggle, man. Anybody just getting out, man. You know what I'm saying? I can hit you up with this dope sack or whatever, man, let you get on your feet. You know what I'm saying? All that old kind of stuff, right? So Rodney tells him, no, I'm good. I appreciate it, though. He said, well, man, look here. Let me get your number. You know what I'm saying? In case I change my mind. So the the gang leader gave him his phone number. Now he's got the number to get at him. Okay? So a few weeks go by. Rodney drops by the dope boy's house. And the dope boy's mama, she comes to the door again. And she looks at him. And her eyes are big. And she says, my son told me not to talk to you. So don't you come by here no more. So Rodney looks at her. He said, I'm no threat to you, man. It's your son that I want. It's your son that I want. And she looked at him and she said, I don't want no problems. I don't want to have to call the police on you. You just got out of prison and you came by here, made me think that you didn't even know you hadn't been in prison with my son, but you just left. Rodney looked at her. He said, dude, but do you know what your son did to me? Do you know what your son cost me? And she said, no, and I don't want to know. And she slammed the door and she left. Then he went by the dope boy's girlfriend's house. She didn't open the door. She just looked out the blinds at him and she told him, she said, leave or I'm going to call the police. And he said, it ain't going to do you no good to call the police. I haven't done anything. And she said, leave. Leave now, I'm going to call the police. So Rodney tell her, he said, look, you tell your man that until I get my due, ain't none of y'all safe. It's just that on that. And if you call the police, I'm going to make sure they know that you out here making sure that your man is straight in the penitentiary. You taking dope up there to him. So she yelled back at him, I ain't taking no dope up out of him. He said, it don't matter if you are or not. That's what I'm going to tell him. So you need to be careful about trying to call some police on me. So now she dropped the blind. She's scared because she understand the game. She know her dude's still getting money. And she don't need the police coming around. She just threw the threat at him because he just got out. She figured it would make him leave. But she can't call the police. That's how it is when you in the game. You can't call the police. What you think they gonna do? What do you think they gonna do? Nothing. But find out what you got going on. Because they gonna ask, well, what is this about? And then you got to tell them what's it about. If you lie, fill out a false police report, you get in trouble for that. So her hands are tied. So now the dope boy here in the penitentiary, he panicking. So he tell the gang, look here, I'll pay y'all if y'all can have something done to Rodney on the streets. So they take the deal. And so they call the head of the org out there on the town and they tell him what's going on, right? And they say, well, what's his name? What is his name? So they give his name, they describe him to him. He said, I seen somebody that looks like that at the mall, but that ain't his name. They said, man, be careful, man. Dude, a stick-up kid. He ain't no joke. He's serious about his business. Now keep in mind, they still don't know. Rodney got money now. Serious money. Legal money. It's dirty because it's got the blood of his mom and his sister on it. And that hurts Rodney. But he gonna use this money to get his lick back. So he goes to the mall again and he sees the gang leader at the mall again. So the gang leader, he ain't no fool. He on point now. He on point. He got that thing on him. So when Rodney pulls up on him this time at the Foot Locker, he said, man, quit playing with me, man. You coming around me and mine, it's going to be consequences and repercussions for that. So Rodney tell him, he said, look, I ain't got no beef with you. But what your brothers did to me, let me tell you what that cost me, man. Let me tell you what that cost me. He said the weekend that they beat me, I was supposed to go see my mama and and my sister. But I couldn't because I was so badly beaten. I didn't want them to see me like that. So I called and I told them not to come visit me. He said, so? He said, well, you say so, but when they didn't come to visit me, they ended up going to the mall. And then they got hit in a head-on collision by a drunk driver and it killed them. So the gang leader, he looked at him, he said, man, look here, let me explain something to y'all. Just because somebody lives a violent lifestyle, a criminal lifestyle, that don't mean they ain't got understanding for another man's pain. You understand? So the gang leader, he looked at him, he said, look, man, I'm sorry about what happened to your people, man. But he said, I'm not finna let you do nothing to me and mine. Now, I said this because I wanted you to lock in on that specifically. The gang leader told him, I'm not going to let you do nothing to me and mine. Now, what he was talking about is him and his family, right? In the gang world, people don't want to hear this. People don't want to believe this, right? But every relationship is transactional. What do I mean by that? A transactional relationship. Look here. What I mean by that in street terms is when it's to my benefit to toss you over to the wolves, that's what I'm going to do. But I got to do it smooth because I don't want to make the whole org fall because of this. You understand what I'm saying? And Rodney understood that. He understood the streets. Money talks in the streets. I don't care what nobody tell you. Money talk. I know many gang members that done crossed out their own kind for that bread, y'all. And Rodney, he understood that. So he told the head of the gang, he said, look, this is what I want you to do. And he said, I'm going to pay you. Then the gang leader, he playing his role. He playing his role like he's not interested. But when Rodney tell him, he said, I'm going to give you $50,000. I'm going to give you $50,000. But I want them. He said, what do you, when you say you want them, what? He said, man, I'm not killing them. He said, nah, don't kill them. Don't kill them. Do to them what they did to me. So the gang member, he's looking at him and he's contemplating. And he said, man, let me think about that. Because to make a move like that could cause backlash for him. And he didn't want that. And he said, but one more thing for that 50. He said, I got to have dude. And he told him who dude was and how he the one that paid his gang brothers to do that to him. And the gang leader, he's thinking, he said, okay, this is the same one that's trying to pay me to do something to him. But he don't tell Rodney that. So he's trying to figure out which way do I go. Because Rodney is paying him way more, willing to pay him way more to do something to them than the dope boy is trying to pay his organization to do something to Rodney. So he's got something to think about. So he goes home, and once he's at home, he confides in his wife, his girlfriend, but it's really he calls it his wife, but it's really his girlfriend. He confides in her. That's what a lot of people in organizations do, man. I'm telling you. The woman that they have in their life that they trust, they confide in them, and they share with them on an intimate level because they need somebody that they know that's going to give them the right street advice. And sometimes the advice ain't street. They just need somebody that they can trust, that they can talk to about what's going on. So he tells his wifey what he's been offered to do. And she tells him, if you do that and they find out, then you're done. But if you do it and nobody finds out, check out what I'm finna say, y'all. She said, then we can move up out of this place and go on with our lives and have a better life for our kids. Period, point blank. She said, how sure are you that he's got this money? And the leader of the gang, he told her, he said, hey, he got money out of the lawsuit. He said, I ain't sure, but we can check it out. And I can tell him to give me half before we make any move. And she said, tell him that. But you got to keep this on wraps, man. If anybody find out, we're done. We're done. So he lays down and he thinks about it. And in the middle of the night, he decides he's going to do it. So he picks up his phone and he calls Rodney and he tells him, meet me tomorrow. But we got to talk about how we're going to do this. Rodney couldn't go back to sleep. He's thinking about all the things that are going to be different in his life, he believes, once this happens. All the pressure that's going to be off of him once this happens. If it goes down the way he wants it to go down. He don't want him dead. He don't want him dead. He just wants something done to him. He just wants something done to him. But in addition to that, he wants their family to walk away from him. But he don't know how he's going to pull that off yet. He don't know how he's going to pull that off. So that night he goes to sleep. He wakes up the next day. And he meets the head of the gang at the mall. And they sit out in the parking lot in the car and they talk about it. And he tells them, he said, I need half up front before we do anything. He said, I'm going to have the guys whoop the brothers. He said, I'm going to let them know that they traitors, that they ain't straight, all this old kind of stuff. You know how to dirty somebody up in this game. See, it's one thing about being in a game. If you get labeled a snitch, a traitor, or somebody that can't be trusted in any kind of way, especially by the head of the gang, the call that they put out, most of the brothers ain't going to question it. They're just going to run with it. Because the head of the gang's reputation with everybody is up there, right? And he's going to manipulate that. He's going to play on the fact that everybody believes that he's this upstanding guy when it comes to the business, and he wouldn't say anything like what he's about to say if it wasn't true. So ain't nobody going to question it. So Rodney is listening to him. He's listening to him. He tells him, he said, okay, I got you. He said, I'll get that to you tonight. And he said, as far as the dope boy, he said, man, one more thing on him. One more thing. I want to know where his stash is at. So the head of the gang tell him, there's no way for me to find that out. He said, man, have your people torture him first. Tell him to give up it all. Give everything up. Give it all up. And he said, you can keep all the dope. You can keep all the dope and we'll split the money. See, that part of him that was still a stick-up kid is still there. It's still there. But see, he knew how to appeal to the head of the game because the streets is what it is, y'all. So dude tell him. He said, yeah, that's what's up. We'll do that. We'll do that. He said, the head of the gang said, I can use that to spread around, or that way he can keep them on lock. He can keep them on lock, y'all. I'm telling you, the game is twisted like that. The game is twisted like that. So the head of the gang, he make the call. Rodney get that money to him, that half of it, 25, bam, give it to him the next day. He make the call. And it's about to go down. He gonna get the dope boy first, because he don't want to cause no problems within the oil. Yeah, he gonna get the dope boy first. They blister him. I'm talking about blistering, torturing, beating, make him give up all the business. And while he giving up the business, they going to the spots. The gang members on the streets, they going to the spot and getting all his money, all the dope. They getting everything. And they putting a little to the side for Rodney. He know he wasn't going to get no equal half anyway. He just wanted to break dude all the way down. Break him all the way down. He didn't care nothing about the money. He had money. But he did want to satisfy that itch that he had. He's still a stick-up kid, y'all. After they finished with the dope boy, the head of the gang, he make the call. And now all them brothers that had something to do with Rodney getting beat, the gang turn on like a pack of piranhas. Beat them. Run them to the back. Strip them. They ain't nothing. The word is spread all over the state. They can't go nowhere. Done deal. Done deal. Rodney has gotten his revenge. He's gotten his revenge. He's broke dude all the way down. He got the gang members back. But guess what? He don't feel no peace. He don't feel no peace. Because it ain't none. It ain't no peace in that, y'all. Understand what I'm trying to say. There ain't no peace in it. I understand why he did it. But until Rodney comes to the realization that if it not for him doing what he did, right? He set these dominoes up and he knocked the first one down when he robbed that boy and all those other people that he robbed in the streets. It was his fault just as much as it was the dope boy's fault and the gang members' fault for his mama and his sister being dead. And until he realizes that, until he owns that, he's not going to have any peace. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to y'all? Yeah, I know you do. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.